This only relates to realtors. It does not relate to everyone who is a licensed real estate agent.
Are you feeling uncertain about selling your home? Do you wonder what needs to be done to get it sold, what you could sell it for, and how to get an acceptable offer? If that's the case, then Get Me Ready to Sell is the podcast just for you. Your host, Jeff Jones, is a realtor, coach, and entrepreneur, and he can help you gain the confidence you deserve to successfully sell your home. Here's Jeff.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Get Me Ready to Sell podcast. You can listen to this podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts, or you can watch it on YouTube. Today, we're going to be talking about the NAR settlement from some lawsuits and what that means for you as a home seller. What does it mean when it comes to compensation for your listing agent? What does it mean when it comes to compensation for the buyer's agent? What options do you have? What responsibilities does your agent have? We're going to cover all those. So I hope you'll stick around with me and let's find out about what the NAR settlement means to you as a home seller. Depending on your news source and how much you pay attention to the news, you may not be aware that the National Association of Realtors was sued, and many others in the real estate industry, brokerages and state associations, local associations have been sued across the United States the last few months in some class action lawsuits. And the National Association of Realtors offered a settlement, and so far that's been accepted. It won't really be official until December. However, because of the agreement that's been made so far that we anticipate being fully accepted, there are some changes kicking into the real estate industry as far as realtors are concerned, beginning August the 17th. So if you're listening to this or watching this before August the 17th, just know this is coming. If it's after this, just know it's already been implemented and it's in place. So let's kind of dig into this a little bit about what the settlement means for you as a home seller. Now, first, let me give you a little background on this. This only relates to realtors. It does not relate to everyone who is a licensed real estate agent. The difference is that states are the ones who license real estate agents to practice the help people buy and sell real estate. The states license those. The realtor, the National Association of Realtors, is a national organization that real estate agents choose to be a part of when they join a local board or join a state or go to a particular brokerage. So it's just kind of unique about how they get to be involved as a realtor on the national level, state level, and local level. And the difference is it is a choice to join the organization based on how you want to operate your real estate business. Some brokerages mandate it, and access to MLS data is typically it's worth it to go ahead and become a member of the National Association of Realtors to get access to that data. Well, what happens is that once you become a realtor, you also are bound to a code of ethics that you agree to abide by. I've talked about that in a previous podcast. We'll have a link in the notes for you to go back to listen to that to hear exactly what a realtor is. Had a guest on here speaking about that, and had a good conversation with her about what it is to be a realtor. So you can get some more information on that. So anyway, this lawsuit happened, and how it started is that some sellers, I believe in Missouri, were able to file a class action lawsuit over a multiple year period of time, saying that they could have made more money on their sale of their home if a realtor had not offered cooperating compensation to a buyer's agent. So let's talk about how we got there. Years ago, before I got a real estate license, how it's been explained to me is that years ago, if you wanted to buy a house, you called the agent on that sign. That agent represented the home seller. So as the seller, you had an agent representing you, and buyers typically went unrepresented. So we're talking about the benefits of having a real estate agent be a partner, a realtor partner with you in selling your home. the seller has the representation, and that means that their realtor is going to be loyal. They're going to keep things in confidence. They're going to obey as long as the instructions are lawful. We're going to use do our best to use skill, care, and diligence in all that we do. And to everybody, we're going to owe honesty and fair dealing in all that we do. So a seller already had that representation, and they would agree to pay their agent a jar of peanuts for the work that they did, that seller's agent, that listing agent. So then a buyer would come along, call the agent on the sign, ask to go show the property, then make an offer on it. And if they weren't represented, then the listing agent would do all of the paperwork, but they wouldn't typically represent the buyer. Because if the seller had said, hey, I know we're offering it for $300,000, we'd sell it for $200,000, that listing agent can't go tell the buyer, hey, if you'll offer $200,000, they'll accept it. That's breaking loyalty. So nobody was representing the best interest of the buyers. Some lawsuits, from what I was explained to me, some lawsuits happened. The industry got together and they said, listing agent said, you know what? I'm getting this jar of peanuts, but I'm doing all this work. I'm having to go back and forth to the buyers to help them figure things out. I'm not representing them. I only represent my client, and I represent my client for this. You know what? If we create a system to where we have agents who are helping buyers, I would be willing to take whatever amount of my peanuts that I would get from my jar, and I would cooperate and give cooperating compensation to a buyer's agent to do all the paperwork on behalf of the buyer. So buyer's agency came into existence. Now, a veteran agent told me that it didn't change what was offered in compensation. It was the same thing. The listing agent just chose not to go get that. And while I'm mentioning that, commissions have always been negotiable. When a listing agent comes to meet with you about listing their property and they say, hey, I'll sell it for this jar of peanuts, you can negotiate and say, well, would you do it for half a jar of peanuts, or would you do it for a can of mixed nuts? So it's negotiable. Now, the listing agent may say, nope, for me to do it, it's going to be this jar of peanuts. And you have the choice to either say yes or no. It's negotiable. And, if a listing agent says, you know what, sure, I'll be glad to do it for a jar of mixed nuts instead of just a jar of roasted peanuts. I know that's kind of funny, but we're not talking numbers in any of this kind of stuff because it's all negotiable. It's what you work out with your listing agent when it comes time to list your property, and you're partnering with a realtor to get that done. So we've had in our MLS system, when a listing agent would put a listing in the MLS system, multi-listing system, which is where that multi-listing service, that's where listing agents and buyers agents listing agents share information to buyers agents about properties that are for sale. If it's a for sale by owner, if it's not part of the MLS, then there's not going to be in that MLS data, but it's where you get lots of information, documents, all that stuff to help you out instead of having to go to all these different places. And before there was the MLS, you had to do that. You have to go to each different brokerage and find out what properties they had listed. That's how it all worked. Now we all have it at our fingertips because there are websites online that actually syndicate all that data and pull it together from lots of different sources. Hey, thanks for listening so far. I just want to make sure that you know about ReadyToSellScore.com. On that website, you'll choose some statements that best describe how ready you are to sell your home. Then you'll get a customized list of items of things that you need to do to actually get ready to sell your home. I look forward to being able to help you any way I can. Now, back to the show. So we have this compensation that's being paid to buyer's agents that's being negotiated by the listing agent on the front end. The listing agent says, hey, you know what? I'll sell your home, and we both agree you're okay with giving me this jar of peanuts as payment for getting your home sold. And the seller, you would say, yes, I'm perfectly fine with that. And then that listing agent would say, you know what? We're going to take out of this commission, out of what you've agreed to pay me for my professional services for getting your home sold. We're going to take that and I'm going to pay these peanuts to a buyer's agent over here if they bring a buyer who's ready, willing, and able to buy your property. They make an offer, they close on it, papers are swapped, you get your money for selling your home, and the buyer's agent gets paid this part of the commission that you and the listing agent agreed to. Now, that's how it's worked for decades in our industry. The settlement for the lawsuit says we're no longer going to do that. We are no longer, through the multi-listing service, going to share that as the listing agent. If you bring a buyer, I'm willing to cooperate with you, and of the commission, the professional services fee that I'm getting, I'm willing to share this with you, and the buyer's agent can say yes or no to that. So that's going away. Now, what's going to happen is different states are handling this different ways. Different brokerages are handling this different ways. As a seller, you need to have an intentional conversation with your realtor when you're choosing to partner with one about what this looks like for you. So I'm going to take you through a document that the National Association of Realtors has put together that's called Here's What the NAR Settlement Means for You. Now, you still have options in this. The commission fees are still negotiable. You have choices when it comes to how you're going to be compensating your listing agent and whether or not you're actually going to be offering compensation to buyer's brokers, to buyer's agent. And you might consider continuing to offer that compensation to a buyer's broker as a way of marketing your property. Because a buyer is now going to be responsible for having a buyer's agency agreement with their agent to represent them, and they agree to whatever fee that they're going to be paid, that they're going to pay the buyer's agent for representing them. That can be a percentage fee of the sale price, it can be a flat fee, or it can be an hourly fee, kind of like how maybe attorneys get paid. They track minutes, and so they bill their clients at the end of the month for the number of minutes, the hours that they've actually worked on their behalf. Maybe some buyer's agents are going to go that route. So you still have the option as the seller to offer compensation to anybody you want to offer compensation to. That's a conversation for you and your listing agent. You also need to make sure that your agent conspicuously discloses to you and gets your approval for any payment that they may make. If, as an agent, you've agreed to pay me this jar of roasted peanuts, and I've told you that, hey, I'm going to collect this jar of peanuts when I get your house sold. But of my jar of peanuts, I'm going to take this and I'm going to convert some of it to this can of mixed nuts, and I'm going to give this to a buyer's agent. If I'm doing that from what you've paid me, I have to disclose that to you, and you have to agree to it. That's going to be on the listing documents. Again, every state's going to be different from this. I'm licensed in Mississippi and Tennessee, and each state is handling that differently. So you have to actually make sure your agent conspicuously discloses that to you and gets your approval before they offer cooperating compensation to a buyer's agent. They also have to, the disclosure that you have must be in writing and in advance of any payment or agreement to pay another broker acting for buyers, and must specify the amount or rate of such a payment. This says that a listing agent can't pay this ahead of time, can't pay this without your approval. You have to know what it is, and it's been predetermined what that amount is going to be. If you do choose to approve an offer of compensation, there are changes to how it happens. You can still make an offer of compensation, but your agent cannot include it in the MLS which are local marketplaces used by both buyer brokers and listing brokers to share information about properties for sale. Your agent can advertise your listing via the off MLS platforms on social media, their own website that has the information on there, flyers, those type things. So that media that's there, they can share that, yes, you're offering, or the listing agent or the seller is offering cooperating compensation to a buyer's agent. You as a seller can still offer concessions in the MLS. Maybe the house needs to be painted or needs new floors or needs some HVAC work done. Maybe you're saying, hey, in my listing, I'm offering you a $10,000 concessions that you can use to buy your interest rate down, to help with closing costs, to do some repairs and upgrades to the property. You can still offer all those types of things. But you need to be very clear and make sure that your agent, the realtor that you're partnering with, is reputable and doing this the way it's supposed to be done. Partly we got into this because buyer's agents, as a whole, not all of them, buyer's agents would typically say, hey, buyer, let me work for you. It won't cost you anything. I'm free. You're not paying anything for my services. And technically, the buyer was not writing a check to the buyer's agent working for them, but they were being compensated. The work wasn't free, and that money was coming from what the buyer was paying for the house. So it wasn't clear. It wasn't very transparent. All of this is an effort for us to be more transparent, to make sure that sellers and buyers totally understand what's going on in the industry with them, so that you know how to proceed forward in getting your home sold and how you might be able to help a buyer out. Part of the reason you may want to consider offering compensation to a buyer's agent or additional funds to a buyer to help do that is if a buyer could end up needing an extra $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 to pay for a buyer's agent to represent them, that by the time they pay closing costs, by the time they put their down payment on the property, that they're going to be pressed to have that money left over. And you might say, well, they just need to save up more money until they can afford that. And that's true. I've been a seller. I totally understand that before I got my real estate license. And think I've shared that on another podcast as well, the different transactions I've been involved in personally before getting my license as a seller and a buyer. And it's just kind of how the system has worked. And we're making changes to that. So I've told you that all this goes into effect has to be in effect by August 17th. Some states or local boards are getting those implemented beforehand, and we don't know what's going to change in the process. You may be listening to this and it's all already outdated, because 6 months from now, something else could change in the industry and change all of this. So here's what the settlement doesn't change for you. Agents who are realtors are here to help you navigate the process of selling your home, and ethically obligated to work in your best interest. Compensation for your agent remains fully negotiable. And if your agent is a realtor, they must abide by the Realtor Code of Ethics. There's a link in our show notes for it. And have clear and transparent discussions with you about compensation. When finding an agent to work with, ask questions about compensation and discuss what you would like to offer buyers. You have choices. Work with your agent to understand the full range of these choices when selling your home, which will help you make the best possible decision for your needs. So you may have an agreement with your agent to sell your house for a percentage, for a flat fee, for a la carte, that this is going to be base services. And if you want these services and these services and these services, they're tiered and you're going to pay more money for it. Maybe you just want them to put it in the MLS and put some pictures out there. That's it. Maybe you want them to have professional photography done, drone footage, video marketing, purchased ads. I typically, as of now, and that may change over time, I work with my sellers to agree to a percentage, and I handle all of it. I take care of the photography, the marketing, the property. I don't go back and say, well, you're going to pay me for this, and then I'm doing this, and you do a checklist. I may move to that someday. Some agents may move to that. I don't know, but that's not what I plan to do as of now. Again, that may change. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you. You can find out more information at facts.realtor, facts.realtor. It'll keep you updated on all those. You can also reach out to me, and I'll be glad to send you this document. It's on that website, or I'll be glad to send it to you, and you can see for yourself how you might navigate partnering with a realtor to get your home sold. As always, I'm here to help you confidently navigate the home selling success path so that you get your home sold as confidently as possible every step of the way for as much money as possible. Have a blessed day. Hey, thanks for listening today. Make sure to check out the show notes for any links to websites I may have mentioned and for a transcript to this episode. If you're listening on podcast but you'd rather watch it, you can discover it on our YouTube channel. Just look for Get Me Ready to Sell. Hey, you deserve to be confident in your home selling process. And if you have an agent already working with you, they should be helping you. If not, let's have a conversation to see how I'm able to help you get ready regardless of the market you're in. There are 3 things that you can do right now to get yourself ready to sell. Number 1 is visit readytosellscore.com. Choose a few statements and you'll discover how ready you may be or not to sell your home. Number 2 is to download the tips for preparing your home for sale. There's some items in there. I think we've covered them in a previous podcast. You will want to see what those items are to make sure you're ready. And number 3, schedule a conversation with me to develop a personalized plan to get you ready to sell your home. Have a blessed day.